I've started thinking about a very different kind of problem in personal branding, a problem that reveals a completely different category of professionals. Lawyers, doctors, investors, but also entrepreneurs who simply don't want to put themselves out there online. So what made me think about this in the first place? I know someone who works in the Secret Service, and I started asking myself, how would I build a personal brand for her? I can't tell you her name, I can't show you her photos, she doesn't have social media, we don't talk about her work, and obviously I can't tell you what she actually does. So how exactly am I supposed to build a personal brand for her? At first it sounds impossible, but listen to the most interesting part. Even if I remove the public aspect completely, there is still an enormous amount of work involved in building a personal brand. And this unusual case that I've taken tells us a lot about what personal branding actually is. Now, let's say we are not allowed to use Instagram or LinkedIn. We're not allowed to publish photos, we can't reveal her employer, we can't discuss her projects, or we can't even tell people exactly what she does. What is left to do then? Actually, quite a lot. We would still need to understand who she is professionally, what she is exceptionally good at, and what she wants to be known for. We would need to think about how she presents herself, what she talks about, what she doesn't talk about, and what kind of reputation she wants to build among the people who are allowed to know her. We haven't created a single Instagram post, we haven't designed a website, no logo, we haven't even made her public, and yet we are already doing branding. Because branding isn't simply what you publish, it's the reputation you deliberately create around yourself. And that distinction is very important to notice, and it's very important to remember. Now, intelligence and security work is an extreme example. Confidentiality isn't simply preferred in this kind of profession, it's fundamental to the work. But there are other professions where discretion is also part of the professional credibility. Imagine a lawyer posting every client's problem online, for example, or a doctor turning a patient's illness into social media content, or an investor publicly discussing confidential transactions before they close. Obviously, lawyers, doctors, and investment professionals can market themselves. I'm not saying they can't, but their professions show us that trust and confidentiality and the rules that they have in their professions limit the traditional marketing playbook. You don't always build trust and credibility by showing more. Sometimes you build it by demonstrating that you know exactly what not to show. Once you start thinking about personal branding this way, you discover a much bigger category. There are many business owners who simply don't want to become public figures. They don't want to be influencers. They don't want to post every day. They simply want to build a successful company and remain relatively invisible behind it. And honestly, I think that's completely fine. Many of my clients don't want to be posted online. They don't want their photos on social media, and they don't want to turn their private life into marketing content. We have created a strange expectation in the modern marketing, or in the personal branding era, as they call it. If you're a founder, you're supposed to become the face of the company. You should be on LinkedIn, make videos, tell your story, share your opinions, build an audience, and somehow turn your personality into part of the marketing strategy. And if you don't do any of that, people sometimes will tell you you need a personal brand. And they're right, because I am one of those people that would tell you you need a personal brand. But I also understand the distinction that what you might really need is a personal brand that doesn't necessarily have to go public. How is that possible? So you are a business owner who doesn't want to be famous, and you don't want thousands of followers, but you still need the right people in your industry to know who you are, to know what you're good at, what you stand for, what kind of business person you are. That's a personal brand. It's just operating at a different level. The goal here isn't to become known by everyone. It's to create a clear reputation among the people who actually matter. And this is where I think we are allowed to define that Not every personal brand needs to be public. The fundamental goal of a personal brand is to create a clear reputation among the people who actually matter. Customers, partners, employees, investors, suppliers, industry peers, and people who can recommend you or people who open doors for you. Once you look at personal branding this way, the strategy changes. Instead of asking, how do I get more followers? You start asking, how do I want the right people to perceive me? And then you work that backwards. How should I present myself? What are my strongest skills? What is my positioning? What professional values people associate with me? And what should remain private and what information can go public? Even things like the way you dress, the way you speak, your manners, and the way you handle professional situations can be common and should become part of that perception. That's where personal branding just became more strategic. When people tell me I don't want a personal brand, what they often really mean is I don't want to go public. And that's perfectly fine as long as they understand that having a personal brand doesn't necessarily mean you have a public presence, because whether we want it or not, we are already visible at some degree. We don't live in a fictional world like Spider-Man or Batman. We live in a real world inside professional and social circles, and people form opinions about us. Now, the real question is whether we are intentional about the perception we create, and that's where the backstage work starts. Before you ever publish a post, make a video, give an interview, or stand on a stage, you can work on the fundamentals of your personal and professional identity. Start with the audience. Who needs to know you? Then positioning. What do you want to be known for? Then expertise. What are you exceptionally good at? Then values. What do you stand for? What principles guide the way you work? Next, presence and communication. How do you speak? How do you interact? And how do you present yourself? Then boundaries. What are you comfortable sharing and what is completely off limit? Then narrative. How do you explain who you are, what you do, and most importantly, why you do it? And finally, reputation. What do people ultimately believe about you? None of this requires you to become an influencer. You can do all of this privately. You can build the fundamentals of your personal brand and then decide later whether you want to share it with a small professional circle, communicate it through your business, or take it public through social media or traditional media or other channels. The public part is a distribution decision. The brand itself comes first. And I think that's the part many people don't get right. So can we build a personal brand for someone who cannot be public, like the Secret Service agent, for example? Yes, we can. And it starts with understanding what a personal brand actually is. It isn't your Instagram account, it isn't the number of your followers, it isn't how many people have seen your face, and it certainly isn't how often you post. A personal brand is the reputation and perception you intentionally build around yourself. Sometimes that reputation exists in front of millions of people. You are a celebrity. Sometimes it exists within an industry, sometimes it exists among 50 most important people, and sometimes it is only known by the very few people who are actually allowed to know. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned and subscribe to my channel for more topics about branding and marketing. See you in the next. Take care.